How we doing? Fox back again for sound design tutorials. Today we're going to be taking a look at Synth and Anthology 2 by UVI. This is a sort of plugin that you can use inside Falcon, which I've got it loaded up in, or inside the UVI workstation. It's a huge library of all classic analog synths and analog modeling synths, FM synths, vector synths, additive synths, samplers, everything from yesteryear. Is a huge catalogue of not only multi-sampled instruments, if you like, but there's so many other controls that you can use to tweak this up and mangle the sounds up. You can go into the pad section and turn it into a bass pretty easily by the amount of control that you've got on this synth. I'll show you some of the categories, show you a couple of presets quickly, and then I'm going to delve in and show you all the different functions and what you can do with this. There are a lot of reviews out there for this already. I wouldn't be showing you this if I didn't think it was worth buying, so we'll cut straight to the chase. I think it's really good. The sound quality is excellent. The control that you've got as well is brilliant. Anything from that UVI do is great in my eyes. Yeah, that said, we'll get stuck in. So I say these are the main basic categories you got. You got classic analog, modern analog, analog modeling, which has got the Virus C in there, which I'm going to be showing you a few patches from that from. Anybody knows me knows that I love the Virus. We've got FM and formant based synthesizers, wavetable and digital. We've got the Wave Waldorf Q and old wavetable synths such as that. We've got vector synthesis, additive, PCM style synths, samplers, and sorted by category. These just brings up random. You can choose the flutes and then choose all of the different categories above that do for that sound. So if you wanted a lead, and then you can choose a classic analog lead, you can go into it that way rather than going into classic analog and lead that way. It's just another workaround, another way of navigating through the browser. It's very easy to install. You need an iLock device to do it, but you can install this library anywhere you want, and then you just navigate for it in this tab up here, and it loads it straight away. I'll quickly show you how that's done. If I just delete this, I'll drag Falcon in. If you go to devices, mine I've got in my volume F, which is just one of my hard drives. I always store my libraries and stuff like this in my libraries folder. It's in UVI Synth Anthology 2, and then just to get it going, we'll just pick one. We'll go into the classic analog first. We'll show you a pad. We'll show you an OBX one. All of the pads have the same routing on the mod wheel. It seems to close the filter off with quite a high resonance as you push the mod wheel up. That's pretty much the same for every pad that I've loaded in here. It must be like a stable. Basic filter sweep. They all have really high resonance as standard, the filters. We go quickly into the edit. You can see what's controlling the mod wheel. Yeah, we'll go into that in a bit. So yeah, some of these pads are really cool. Very analogy, very classic sounding, because obviously we are in the classic analog. We go into something like the wavetable and digital sweeps. This is the WTX. This is a Waldorf microwave. Beautiful. Start to get a lot more movement in these sort of patches. I always find myself navigating towards the sweeps and the pads and things when I'm searching through these sort of things, but let's go into additive bass. There's some real fat percussive sort of basses inside this. different monophonic options and other things you can do. I'll run through some more presets at the end. I really want to get stuck in and show you what this thing can do in regards to what controls you have. So let's go into the analog modeling. Let's choose a pad. There will be a Vorus one in here. Vorus C Neptune pads. It gives you a cool little graphic of the synth that you're using as well. It's like a little digital picture. Very, very Vorusy, that is. They do a real good job. So on the main page, it shows you the sample or the synthesizer that it's replicating. You've got gain control and pan. This pan comes into play when we bring the sub-oscillator, which we'll go into in a bit. You've then got a main amp ADSR envelope, so as you would imagine, your standard ADSR control over the amp. Attack, decay, sustain, release. You then have an automatic velocity button, so it applies velocity to the volume. And it is very, very velocity sensitive. If these are multi-sampled instruments, there are loads of different velocity settings. You can then set the velocity to the attack time if you uncheck it off there. So the less velocity, the longer it takes for the attack to come in. You then have a filter for the main section. You've got choice of a low pass, a peak, or a bell, or a high pass. When it's off, it's highlighted. If you click on any of these, then it automatically turns it on. Velocity is all automatically mapped to the filter cutoff. That's one thing that I would definitely want to be off. And also the resonance is on full as standard. I don't know whether these filters are based on the filters of the synths itself or not. I'm not too sure, but either way, they do a real good job. And then this ADSR envelope is automatically mapped to the cutoff. So if we pull the cutoff down, give it some destination right, you can create a little pluck sound. What I meant when you can drastically change these up. This was a pad. I mean, we've just made a pluck out that pad sound. You could then go ahead and make a bass patch out of this. It's so very versatile. I'll quickly show you how you could do that. I mean, yeah. So this depth is plus or negative for the filter. As you would imagine. So you got the bell, peak, or a high pass. Very, very straightforward. You then got the sub-oscillator, which we'll come back to quick. If I go to the oscillator section, now I could say you could turn this bass into a pad. You just pull the octave down. So we've made a pad into a pluck and then a bass. That's how versatile these are. Every single sound in here, you can then just go in, mangle it up, change it all around. We go back to the oscillator page. The sub-oscillator is the same no matter what synth or patch that you load in. I mean, if we load it in, sub-oscillator is always there. Sometimes it's turned on, sometimes it's turned off. We go into the vector synthesis, choose a lead even, a ladder. Sub-oscillator is always there. 9 times out of 10 it's not turned on. We'll turn the main synth off for now. We'll talk about the controls we have for the sub-oscillator. Click it, turn it on. We've got triangle, square, saw. That's sort of a dirty saw. That's a normal saw, a half pulse, some more distorted waves, a Q pulse, some sort of belly wave. It's hard to see what's going on there. Or a ramp up. Individual volume and pan control again of the sub-oscillator. Now where the synths get really, really interesting is if you go into the edit page. This gives you a lot. Let's try this. This is a Novation Ultranova. So yeah, on the edit page, you then have a lot more control of what you can do. It's per voice, if you like, or per synth. So you got same controls, virtually the same controls. So this one is your sampled instrument, what we've just loaded in. You've got octave, plus or minus, semitone. Goes all the way up to 2 octaves as well, so you can really crank it. You can go plus an octave on the octave and then plus 2 octaves on the semitone. You then have an independent sort of pitch envelope, if you like. You can choose the depth and the time it takes to do it. Let's choose a better sound for this. Let's choose something a bit brighter. Let's try Polysynth. So yeah, in the edit section, octaves, so yeah, very easy to go real deep or real high with your sounds. You then have this pitch envelope, as I said. You can choose it to go to the extreme and create a zap with a high depth, a lesser depth, and a short time. You can just add some punch to the start of the sounds. You then have these stereo options. This is like your detuning effect. You can choose to alternate. Now this is it's already quite a detuned patch anyway. Let's choose something a little bit more basic to show this. So yeah, that alternate, it switches between the stereo field. Even if you press one note, each note is going to flick to the left and the right. Unless you're doing legato or portamento, then it keeps the same note. You can hear that flicking left or right of the stereo field. The unison is unison. It creates an extra voice or two. Must be in mono mode. It's the spread of the new voices. Real straightforward. You can then choose to whether it's monophonic or not. Obviously, if you want your unison stuff to come in, then you want to be playing chords, you want it non-monophonic. You then have the mob wheel assignments. We've got vibrato by default on this patch. You've got control over the rate. You can have it a bit slower if you want. Tremolo, this pulses the volume rather than the pitch. Again, nice with a real slow rate on these sort of pads. You then have control over the cutoff of the filter. Depth, you can have it opening or closing to suit. Or you can have drive of the distortion, whether the distortion is turned on. It is on this patch. The drive amount. If you want to break your bass patches up or some deep leads. Yeah, that basically covers the main section. The sub oscillator is slightly different. You've got let's go in and turn the sub oscillator on just on a basic sawtooth. So in the edit section, again we're in monophonic at the minute. If we turn that off, you now have control over the number of voices, so we can crank the voices up to 8 voices. This sub oscillator really is impressive. So the stereo mode, if it's off, it just does exactly what you'd think. Just a standard unison. This alternate then, as you bring in more notes or more chords or more notes in a chord, it pans them independently of each other. So you can make a huge sound just out of this, just out of the sub oscillator. I was playing around making some bass patches with this earlier, just with one sub oscillator on a square wave or whatever, just messing around with the filter and the different effects and stuff. Same thing with the vibrato, and the mod wheel assignments are all the same. You can have different mod wheel assignments for the sub and the main if you want. So you could have pulse width mod. You've got a different one here. You've got pulse width mod for the sub oscillator. If we change this to a square wave, take the vibrato off, turn the unison off, you can hear us changing the depth of the pulse. Let's introduce a couple more. Very subtle. Maybe you want to choose a thinner pulse for that to be better. These sort of things can be modulated with the LFO later on as well. Volume, the filter, the pitch, and the pan. I wish you could modulate the pulse width of a pulse width bar on LFO, which is what you would do as standard. Hey ho, they have limited themselves to the modulation and stuff, but we'll be going through that in a bit. So yeah, slightly different controls from the main oscillator to the sub oscillator, but you can start to build up some real big sounds when you have them all in together. That's really loud, yeah. So we'll keep it just on the main oscillator for now, or even just the sub oscillator. It's lovely sounding square wave. The basic waveforms are really cool in this sub oscillator. So yeah, once you've done the edit section, you've got a step LFO or a step generator if you like. It's like it's just a step LFO. It's like an arpeggiator, being able to control the velocity in arpeggiator like you can with a virus or in Synth even. So you step the number of steps. If we have 4 steps, set the speed, and you can assign it to different things. So we can assign it to the cutoff. We put the cutoff down. We're on the sub oscillator, aren't we? Like a dope. So yeah, we need to go to the sub cutoff. Oscillator. So there we go, with the cutoff down, destination to the filter positive. These steps are now going to be opening the filter to the amount that we set in these boxes, controlled by the rate here. So if we set a bit quicker, you got a delay, you can delay the amount of time it takes for the signal to come in. You can have a rise so it gradually comes in. You can smooth it out so it changes the squares into a sine wave, some more gradual shapes if you like. Really, really basic, but quite cool if you get in here and if you double clip a section, you can dial in the amount by number. You can get some real funky shapes going on. You can also control the resonance as well, so it flicks the resonance up as well. It's polyphonic as well. One way you could control the pulse width, although you can't do it with the LFO, if you use this step LFO and then draw in a sort of a triangle shape, or as near as damn it, set that to the pulse width. We've got to open the filter again now. Go back to the steps, smooth it right off. We're then using the step LFO in sort of a triangle shape to control the pulse width. That's a workaround, but it does work. If we change the speed to something again a bit quicker. You get the idea. Basic step envelope or step LFO to control the volume, filter resonance or PWM. On the main section again, it gives you the option for the drive and the filter effects section. So we'll turn all of those off for now. Really love this square wave. Even with the resonance on full, it doesn't give you too much resonant peaks or too much bite. Yeah, keep going. So step. You've then got LFOs. Again, we can, let's do the filter cut off again just because we've got that. So on a square wave, you've got just the basic waveforms. You've got sine, triangle, square, or sample and hold. Triangle being the most smooth. Again, your speed. You can uncheck it from the clock. You can get some very short depth with some very fast speed for some cool effects. Same again. Would have been nice to have the rise and the lead in that this step LFO's got here. Again, I don't know why they didn't do that. Still plenty of control. It'd be nice to have the delay, the rise and the smooth for the LFO. You got legato, no retrigger or retrigger. Basic LFO controls. Sample and hold is cool. It's polyphonic again. It's each individual note gets its own LFO, which can get quite messy, but still very cool. So that covers the basic LFOs again. Yeah, same controls for the main. You got volume, filter, pitch, and pan. Sub, volume, filter, pitch, and pan. Then to the effects section. If anybody has used Falcon before, these are taken from Falcon, but they're sort of toned down versions. You've got the spark verb. Their world-renowned reverb, which is probably the best reverb you'll ever buy, in all honesty. You've got a low cut, high cut, decay, and a room size. You then got a delay. Basic again, high pass filter, low pass filter, in or out of the filter. Mix control as you send. All triplets and dotted notes. Let's go quickly to the sub oscillator and make a pluck. We'll bring in the spark verb as well. Too much decay. You get the idea. Phasor is a phaser. Again, let's do away with it. Speed. No idea what the edge does, if I'm honest. I've never seen that control on a phaser before. Maybe it's more resonance, but I can't hear it having any effect. Phaser is very, very deep, very dark. Thorus is their chorus, which is huge. Bit crusher is a bit crusher. You can choose the number of bits and the frequency. You can really start to crunch it up. Not that you would want something that drastic. And then a drive, which is just emulated an old overdrive on a filter. These are all world-class effects. They are taken from the ones inside Falcon. There's nothing else to be said about them, but they are very, very good. Thorus especially have done a great job on that. Although they've toned it down, you've only got the speed and the depth. It really does. It is a huge sounding chorus. Look, just one note. And with a chord. Then bring in the spark verb as well. Yeah, real basic controls of the effects. You then have a dedicated arpeggiator per voice or per main or per sub. So if we turn it on for the sub, again, they are quite basic. You've only got up, down or up and down. We'll choose up and down for now. You can set velocity to these steps, and then if you have velocity mapped in that to anything in here like amp, or in the filter section, if you give velocity to the cutoff, so yeah, think of these lines as velocity. that then lends its attributes to whichever you've got velocity linked to inside the synth. You have control over the octaves that the arpeggiator is covering. Let's set the steps to 8. Change the speed as well. Again, it's all linked to the clock. Gate is how long or short the notes are. So if we set this, turn the main arpeggiator on, set the speed the same, 1/16, set the gate to a longer length with slightly different velocity settings for this. This will then correlate the velocity to the oscillator of the main one. So if we have velocity, turn on the cutoff again, and velocity to the attack, turn it on. We'll turn the octaves down so they're all the same, so it doesn't sound too crazy. So you don't have to use these, you could just have one running. So you could just have the arpeggiator triggering the sub-oscillator. I would imagine that's the cutoff that I've got going crazy there. So yeah, as you can see, you can have the arpeggiator controlling the sub-oscillator and then the main one running free. Yeah, I mean, that is it. I would say it's basic, but you don't really need much else to control these sounds. I mean, this, I would say, is predominantly designed as a preset playing machine, and for that purpose, you are in your element. It has absolutely everything. We've got vector synthesis. Vector synthesis leads a PVSV solo. This is a CSI Prophet. Some really cool sounds. I mean, just look how many there are FM and the formant ones. Let's go to a Polysynth YX7. This was based on the DX7, was it? YX7, the DX7. Some real crunchy bell sounds in here as well. YX7. Classic FM bell. Tremolo giving it that transformery sort of sound. Let's say we wanted to mangle this up again. We'll go into the edit section. We'll do away with the tremolo and the filter mod. Let's go to the FX section. We'll crank the mix for the delay. We'll make more of a plucky sound with the filter. Sounding quite fluty, so let's bring a square wave in on the sub-oscillator. Go to the edit section again, make sure the tremolo and the PWM is off on that. Let's pitch the give it a bit of a chorded feel. Again, create a sort of basic pluck with a filter. It's very, very easy to do.
get some step LFO going on the panning. I mean, you could literally just set it to do steps, so it's just like a square wave. Set it to the, it doesn't have any panning, I suppose the volume. You can hear that effect in it now. It's very easy to go in these presets and then chop them around yourself. I'll just quickly show you some of the other, a few other ones quick. Some very, very, very cool sounds in here. Keyboards, DS1, Supercloud for Korg. This is a classic synth. Let's look for some sort of syncy sort of lead sound. Sorted by categories, leads. What would be good for this? Modern analog. Let's look, sync, boom. I don't know how they get that syncy sound because there's no envelopes on oscillator 2s or anything like that. It's just a dedicated amount of sync. They've already like sort of set it in there for you. You've got no control over it. So yeah, anything you can think of. I say the Virus ones are my favourite for me. They're in the analog modelling section. There's some real cool sounds in here from the Virus. There's none in there for some reason. Polysynth. We're in the modern analog. We need to be in the analog modelling. Virus C. Bad sync. It really, really does do a brilliant job of emulating every synth that it tries to do. I think that's enough for now for the first video in the series. Well, I would say a series. I'm going to be using this to make some of my own sounds. I'm just going to delve in there, chop up some of these presets and make some cool sounds myself. But for now, there will be a link in the description to the UVI website where you can go and download this or buy it and download it. I would recommend it to anybody just for the sheer library of classic analog sounds that you get with it. Believe me, it's definitely worth the money. Obviously, you need Falcon or the UVI player to run it. I do believe the UVI player comes as a freebie. Let's check quickly. Is it UVI player? Yeah, UVI workstation, free player. So you can download this for free and then use this library or any other UVI library that you buy inside it. So yeah, UVI workstation. You get it for free. Buy Synth Anthology 2 from UVI and then get it in there. I wasn't paid to do a video on this. They did give me this for free. I just thought I'd state that for now. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to me for many more tutorials and other synths coming soon. Yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.